Welcome to Pro Audio Profiles. I'm Brennan Decora, and on this show, we focus on techniques for inspired studio performances. Each week, I host experts from across the industry. Let's get started. On today's show, we have Wyatt Meagher. He's a producer that's worked with PRPL NRG, Unfollow Me, Telekinetic Walrus, and many more. Enjoy. So, first and foremost, I want to thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Awesome. I'd like to start, if you can kind of go over your backstory, kind of what led you to music, what you've done so far, how you got there, that kind of thing.
Yeah, man. I actually started music because I wanted to get two of my best friends that were both musicians at the time playing together.
Okay.
And one played guitar and one played drums.
Nice.
And naturally, I started playing bass. My brother had a bass, and so it was an easy way to kind of pick up and go. Mm. And I literally just picked it up, and it was pretty easy for me.
Nice.
Nice. I was a natural. So I started
Awesome.
that, and then I started a little psychedelic rock band with these guys. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to learn how to do music better, so I actually went ahead and enrolled myself in chorus when I was in high school, so that I could learn how to sing, because I felt like that would be one of the harder things to learn.
Right.
Doing so got me to be pretty good at singing, and I ended up being in the honors chorus and stuff like that.
Nice.
And I went to college as an opera singer for the first year.
Really?
For the first year and a half of me doing school.
Nice.
But I did not want to be an opera singer. I just wanted to go to school for music. And so that was kind of like my shoe-in. My family did not want me to go to school for music. Called me some inappropriate names for trying to do so, but I was stuck on it.
That's cool.
When I did that, though, I got a Mac computer for school. Mm-hmm. And I had already been, I was a computer kid growing up. So I always played video games and had, I was always into computers. Right. So I finally got my first laptop, and it was, nice. A MacBook Pro, and I got Logic, and I spent most of my time in music school when I was supposed to be singing opera, recording people. Right. So I got really into recording. I would bring all these singers back to my place to record, and my dorm room and all that sort of stuff. Nice. And then I got sick of being in opera because that wasn't what I wanted to do, and I was much more into the recording. Mm-hmm. So I ended up leaving school, and I kind of was floating around for a little bit trying to figure out where I wanted to end up and where I wanted to go. Yeah. I traveled to a few different places, and I wound up in Miami. And because I had a really good friend of mine, one of the guys I used to make music with, right? And so I went down there, and I started a psychedelic booty bass collective party band situation called Telekinetic Walrus. Also, simultaneously, I started getting into the teaching space. So somewhere along that path, I needed to start performing live. So I found Ableton Live from recommendation from a friend, Vando. Shout out. And then so I needed that so I could actually start performing some of this music I had made. Right. I became pretty proficient in it after a few years, and then I actually started the Ableton user group in Miami, which kind of got me to be an Ableton certified trainer, all while I was touring with the band Telekinetic Walrus and all that sort of stuff. Nice. And so I've been a professional in the music tech field for a minute, and since 2013 was when I got certified. Nice. And so, I've just been a producer basically ever since I got that MacBook Pro in college, which was about 2006, I guess. Right. That was when I really started producing. I'd say 2 years after that, I started calling myself a producer. That was what my title was. And then ever since, man, I've just been doing that sort of thing. Now I still make. I have a project called Unfollow Me with my good friend Corinne Stevie, who I've been making music with since 2009, I think it is. Okay. So me and her still make tunes together, and then I'm always personally making beats and productions and stuff as PRPL NRG, which is my producer name right now.
Okay, nice. So I like to kind of go over what inspires artists in the studio on the show. And as you know, you're kind of bridging the gap between an artist yourself and also a producer. You work with artists, but you create as well.
Right.
So can you walk us through your creative process? How do you go from initial idea to finished piece of music?
Okay. Yeah. Well, it depends if I'm working by myself or with somebody else.
Right.
But I often start with either like, drums. Obviously, I like to start music with drums a lot, catch a feel. But then I also like to start songs with maybe some chords or like some sort of line, and then kind of figure out what feels right. Or then also backwards, like start with some drums, come up with a part. The part doesn't exactly fit with the drums, so then I'll like redo the drums to like kind of fit the vibe of what I did. Yep. But I'm actually a big advocate of kind of like switching it up and like try a new piece of gear out, try something a little different. Starting music in different ways helps like, keep things fresh and not get stuck in the pocket. I feel like when I was a bass player specifically, I used to like, I think a lot of musicians can relate. They'll pick up an instrument and they'll kind of always play that comfort riff or something. Right. I don't feel like I do that with electronics and like my computer and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. But when I'm with another artist in the studio, it depends what they do, and to kind of like, I love collaboration. The Telekinetic Walrus collective I had been a part of started. That was a big, that was the big thing. Always, I like to pull people, collaborate. Sometimes, depending, might get them to start something. I like artists to, feel comfortable. So one thing I like to do is like, maybe lay some sort of something familiar or something to them, let them do something that they know. Like, here, play whatever you play, like whatever you vibe on, like just throw something out there. Right. And then what I'll normally do is I'll kind of like flip that. So then they're kind of like playing on top of themselves, but like in a different way. And because I'll normally mangle it up or, make it a little, do something different with their sound that they would have never done. Right. And then they're jamming with themselves essentially, but it's a different flavor, right? Of course. So that's a way I like to collaborate with people. Nice. But yeah, essentially I like to start projects a few different ways. Right.
Keep it fresh for
sure. Yeah, man.
Nice. So how do you deal with creative blocks, and what strategies do you use to stay inspired and motivated?
Man, all right, that's a good one. So I feel like when I was a little bit younger, I used to have quote unquote creative blocks more often. Right. Now I just make shitty art when I'm in a creative block. Right.
Yeah. Just put something out.
Yeah. So now I feel like it's more about the repetition. Like if I get like, I need to, get up, make some art. It's not always going to be the best, and that's okay. It's more of the process for me. So like, I feel like if anyone has issues with creative block, just sit yourself down and make yourself do something for 30 minutes. Right. And a lot of times you're going to do something for longer. I think that's the best way to deal with it. I definitely used to kind of have the self-crippling creative block where I'd be like, oh, I don't feel like, making something. But like, nah, not anymore. Now I just kind of get up and I make something and, just kind of make yourself get in the vibe and make yourself do something.
Right. No, absolutely. I think that's important just to, there's some people that say that, to kind of treat it as if it's almost a hobby where you just make music no matter what. Yeah. And, then you'll end up with a pile of stuff and then you can go through it later or whatever. Yeah. Pick the best ones, but it's the act of actually doing it that is important.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you did the exercise, you got your repetition in. Yeah. So you're going to be better tomorrow, even if you're not vibing it. But I feel like, nowadays it's not. I don't even really get those feelings so much. But I think it's also with time, right? Like being old, having done this for a bit and getting a little older, I feel like has made me, approach the situation just differently and think about it differently. Of just like, I'm not like, oh man, I'm have writer's block. It's just like, okay, let me, whatever. If something's not flowing, I'm not going to necessarily force like the thing I'm doing. doing, but I might pivot and like go a different route. Maybe I'll focus more on some chords or focus more on some drums or whatever. You know?
Exactly. And I've even seen where, you know, people will take a small section of a song, like, oh, this song is crap, but this pre-chorus is amazing. So let's take this and just put the whole thing in a different song and work something else around there, you know.
Dude, 100%. I'll go fishing for stuff I've done, and I like a certain section, but I think this part's trash, and that's okay. I mean, I feel like that happens with completed songs too sometimes, where you'll be like, man, this song's great, but this section is bad, you know. So let me go ahead and take this out, you know.
Right. Exactly. And how do you approach the mixing phase of your music? Are there specific techniques or approaches that you find, helpful?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I know you're a pretty awesome mixing engineer, so, you know, I feel like I'm more of a producer than a mixing engineer.
Okay.
But I do mix my music and you know, master my own music as well.
Right.
Not for every project I've ever done or anything, but I do it often, right? Especially when I'm like trying to, you know, move. But as far as mixing, I always have to color code and organize is my first step in mixing. So I'm a visual guy, which as are a lot of us creators. Right. So I have my own colors that I know represent certain pieces of my mixes, you know, my drums, my basses, my synths, or like, you know, lead lines and, you know, have vocals, whatever. They all have their own colors and I know them. So like whenever I pull up a mix, if I'm looking for a certain, you know, part of the song that I need to pinpoint, I know where to find it. And then, yeah, man, I really like to, you know, obviously the low end is always, you know, going to be the most, you know, the more challenging piece of the mix.
It can be.
You know, especially for someone like me who likes to push it a little too much sometimes.
Oh, good.
But, you know, I'll normally approach it like that. You know, I always get my drums nice and tight. Make sure my bass and my drums aren't conflicting. Right. And then I really just want to make sure, you know, I do a lot of hip hop, so I definitely want to make sure my vocals are sitting on top. Right. And they're clear. And, you know, if I need to do a little bit of this and that, I'll do that. But that's normally where I go from that, man. It's something like that. And then everything else is kind of, you know, accompanying and sitting. Course, so as long as it has its spot, you know, I mean, you know how to do that. But that's normally how I approach it.
Totally. I just want to take a quick break and tell you about my free guide, The Art Method, the Advanced Recording Toolkit. In it, I share the details of how you can get pro studio results from your home studio. I've believed for a long time that it's the cooking, not the kitchen. If you can learn some of the advanced methods for getting great results in the studio, you can do it in any studio. I skip the basics and dive into the more nuanced info you need to level up the quality of your home studio recordings. Check it out now at brendandecora.com/art. And now, back to the show. What do you think is the most underrated aspect of music production?
I think just music, like, you know, creating records and creating music in general, the power behind it. Like, you know, if you really get something that can connect with people, that can move people. Right. You know, and there's a million ways, right? I mean, like, you go to a really great dance club and everyone's vibing. Yeah. Like, that's a vibe. Also, you know, you go to a really emotional concert where someone, you know, completely different vibe, but like songs well written. Like, I feel like that power is what music's all about. And like, you know, because essentially you're connecting with people, right? Yeah, it's the most universal language, as they say, right? Definitely. It's like you see Chemical Brothers in Japan or something, and you see all the Japanese people know all the words to the song phonetically, even if they don't know what's going on, but it's just the music's that great that it connects everyone. And I feel like that at the end of the day, it goes back to the production. Like, they wouldn't have been there at that concert if it weren't for that record being made to reach those people, right? Definitely. So I think that is 100% the best part of of the secret power of production.
Right. What is one piece of technology or software that has revolutionized your production process?
Well, that one's a little too easy for me, just because I've been an Ableton certified trainer for a decade officially, and November of 2023 was the decade for me.
Nice.
So Ableton Live, 100% would probably be the piece of software that has revolutionized my work. It's put me in a lot of cool places too, being a certified and affiliated, trainer. Yeah. You can find me on their website and stuff like that. So they've gotten me a lot of work throughout the years, and they'll send some of their, high-end clients or their celebrity clients and stuff like that. They'll, get me to go train them and stuff like that. And then there's, certain events and stuff I get to be a part of because of it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But without a doubt, Ableton Live, hands down, has definitely changed, the way I make music, and then also the places and people I get to, places I get to be and the people I get to meet. And as far as my favorite instrument, I'd say outside of Ableton, it would probably be my Moog Sub 37.
Okay.
Because it was my synth that I toured with.
Okay.
So I know it better than any other synth because I've spent hours and hours and hours on that one particular synth because that was my workhorse for when I traveled. Shout out to Corrine Stevie again because she actually hand painted my synth, and it's really badass.
That's awesome.
There's all sorts of cool graphics on the back and stuff like that she kind of catered towards me and stuff with my favorite colors and.
That's awesome.
Some alien titties in there, all sorts of cool synthesizer, patch cables and a little cityscape. There's there's a walrus because it was with the band, the Telekinetic Walrus. So there's a walrus on the side, smoking, and it's pretty cool, man. So shout out to Crean for making that custom synth for me.
Awesome. Can you talk about a project that was particularly challenging and rewarding? And those may be two different projects, actually, but
Yeah, I mean, I feel like finishing any project is rewarding to be done with it because how much work goes into them. But I'd say the most challenging record that I ever put together was the Spaceship with the Heavy Bass Bump, which was a Telekinetic Walrus project I put together. There's I'm blanking. I want to say there's 15 tracks. There's 11 tracks, and then there's 5 interludes or something. I literally have to. I don't even remember. Actually, wait up. I think you'll have it.
Oh, right there. Wait, you got to show it. Show it on the camera. There you go.
So there's actually.
Nice.
So there's actually 16 tracks. I was right. 11 tracks and 5 interludes / there's an intro, an outro, and 3 other interludes.
Jeez.
This was hard to make. This was really challenging to do, and a lot went into it. I'm definitely super proud of it, and it definitely paid off because the single off this record is, I think, our most played track.
Nice.
So
awesome.
Definitely played off. Corrine Stevie again. She's one of my best friends in the whole world. So I'm always going to shout her out. And we still work together today with the Unfollow Me stuff. But she did all the artwork on here. And, we were always about community. So if you open up our records and stuff like that, you'll see there's all the crew and stuff that are in the liner notes. Shawnee's in there, all sorts of people. So
definitely.
But yeah, so that would definitely be the most challenging record I ever put together. I feel like just creating something that large for me, and that also has a flow. Is a whole thing,
Absolutely.
But man, it was definitely, there's definitely a lot of good tracks on there that I feel very good about,
Nice. Awesome. What's the most significant change you've observed in your production career? How have you evolved as a producer?
Yeah, learning techniques and stuff like that. I feel like I've gone through different phases. So when I first started making music, I was a bass player, and so everything was much more live instrument oriented. Right. As I got into the Ableton realm, I got even more into the grid and all that sort of stuff. But as that project, the Walrus that I worked on, it was very much a blend of both worlds.
Okay.
But then I also make a lot of beats and music by myself, and a lot of those will end up being a lot more electronic based, even if it's hip hop, even if it's electronic. But when I'm not working with other musicians, like I might throw my bass guitar in there, and I do record a lot of outboard synths and stuff. But yeah. Nice. So nice. I just feel like I'm always evolving. Like I'm always learning something new.
Right.
And I'm always trying something new, because like kind of going back to what I said about like like the writer's block, or like trying to start, or how I like go approach making a track. It's like, I'm always trying to do something different to inspire me in a different way.
Right.
And also to get different results, right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make the music I made 6 years ago. I'm trying to make something better, or
Absolutely.
and continue on this journey. So.
Right.
So there's my 3-part,
Well, it actually ties into my next question, which, how do you stay updated with the latest, techniques and production, tools?
There's a mix of it. I stay updated, one, because I work in the industry. So I am currently Arturia's Southeast brand rep. So and they're actually a pretty forward thinking company. Right. So I feel like their instruments, both software and hardware, are really unique. I feel like they're really trying to gear towards future rather than just live in the past, even though they are the ones that make the V collection with all these like classic synthesizers. So they do the old stuff very, very well. And people swear by it, which I also do. But then they're also into making really like unique future, sounding synths and stuff like that, like pigments and stuff like that. So I have to learn about these things because it's my job.
Right.
Same with Ableton. If I'm not current on what's going on with Ableton, then I couldn't really, justify calling myself a certified trainer. So, so there's that part. But I'm also, I'm always searching, man. I'm always looking at different instruments coming out. I love gear and stuff like that. So I'm always like seeing what people are doing, what's out there. And then just like, probably a lot of people out there, I definitely, I follow a lot of audio pages, stuff like that. And I go searching for, techniques as well. I also DJ, so I'm always listening to kind of what's going on and what's coming out. So,
that's a big part of it there too, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I've put myself in this position, but I feel like all the different little things that kind of satellite around me kind of help influence and like kind of stay relevant on like what's hip or what's coming out, or and a lot of times I get to have or see products before they come out too, which is really cool.
Right. Nice. Awesome. Is there any current or recent projects you want to talk about? You can?
Yeah, man. So me and Corrine Stevie, we have a project called Unfollow Me, and so it's Unfollow Me with a period at the end, and we essentially we're an alternative hip hop group, so the whole thing is we want you to think for yourself type of thing and not just follow the crowd. So it's a little anti vibe. But no, I mean, it's definitely fun, funky, unique hip hop. It's a cool experience. Check it out. We're on it. We're everywhere. At Unfollow Me 1111 on Instagram, but you can just find us like that.
Yeah. And you said you do a lot of production under your like producer name. Is there any of that stuff coming out soon? Or?
Yeah. So PRPL NRG is my producer name. That's how you can find me if you're searching for me online. It's PRPL NRG is how you find that. So there's no vowels.
Nice.
But yeah, so essentially when I moved up to Atlanta, so I lived in Miami for 10 years and I moved up to Atlanta about 4 years ago. And when I did that, I kind of wanted to like rebrand and like do something different since I was moving to a new city. And I felt like my past work was very psychedelic and very, very festival-y. And which I loved still to this day, but I wanted to kind of go a little bit more hip hop centered and electronics, but kind of not so festival-y as far as like I didn't want it to be so hippie, I guess is for lack of a better word. So I kind of just wanted to rebrand so that I could do something without a lot of things tied to the past for for new eyes.
Right.
People still know me for what I've done and stuff like that if you know me. But yeah, so.
Nice.
So the Purple Energy stuff is basically meant to be that's my producer moniker currently, and so I do a few different things. I've done a few releases with some featured artists, and then I've done a remix for a buddy, but then I've also just released some solo beats. Right. I definitely plan to put some more stuff out this year under Purple Energy. But yeah, I don't have my next release planned for it. I've currently been working on a 12-track record I've been working on. So we'll see kind of how what I end up wanting to do with everything. But 100%, I'll be dropping some beats for public enjoyment this year.
Awesome. I like to wrap up each podcast with the same kind of few questions. The first one is, who has been your most influential teacher? And it can be a couple if you want.
For me as a creative, not even recently, but I always give a shout out to Rolna Bashu, which is one of my best friends from growing up, Gray Bashu's mother. And she is a sculptor artist. She used to have a kids show in South Africa that was popular. But she just always nurtured our creativity. She always encouraged us. Nice. They wouldn't get mad at us for being loud or whatever we were doing, and they just always were there for it. And his father also, Howard, would also record us all the time. Okay. So we have documentation of a lot of the stuff we used to do.
Nice.
But ultimately, man, she always comes to mind when someone asks me about some of your some of mentors, those people. She was a huge part of me developing into the creative that I am today for sure.
Nice. The next question may not really apply to you. It's, what is your favorite reference track for engineers if they go to new studios and stuff like that?
Right.
But in your case as a producer, what do you put on to be inspired?
What do I put on to be inspired where?
If you're starting a new project, let's say.
I normally don't put on things to get inspired.
Okay.
As far as when I work.
Right.
But I love just listening to music. I'm a huge hip hop head since I was a kid. Right. So I love some stuff like that, but I love some dreamy, trippy stuff. I don't know. I don't know if I have an exact answer for that one, but
it varies.
Yeah. But I mean, man, I love all sorts of, great music. I think some of my most played artists this past year was Kendrick, Run the Jewels.
Right.
And then, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure who else. Yeah. MIA is always one of my favorite ones.
Okay.
I love MIA.
Cool.
But, my spectrum's pretty broad of stuff I like.
Right on. Last question. What would be one tidbit you have for an upcoming producer?
For someone starting out and stuff like that.
Yeah, just some advice.
Yeah, I mean, I would say don't get too frustrated with what you're doing. Just make it. Just go ahead and make the thing you're trying to make. The more you're gonna do it, the better you're gonna get. And I feel like that's just with every art form in general. But but I feel like the youngins need to hear it. Dude, just keep it up.
Right.
We're in this culture right now where everyone wants immediate gratification and stuff. But but as anyone knows, it's you're just gonna get better if you keep doing the thing, whatever that thing is. Just exercise those muscles, man. So if you're new, don't worry so much about what you have, just worry about making the thing. People get gear envy, or they think they need this piece of software. I mean, I'm an Ableton certified guy, but I don't care if you use FL Studio, Logic Pro, Pro Tools. If you can make something great in it, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what you're using, and especially nowadays, because everything's getting better and better. It's just there's so many good tools out there that I would just encourage you, if you have the things, just use them. If they end up being a crutch, pivot, right? But like,
for sure.
But if it works for you, you don't need to find something else necessarily if it's working. Like, run with it if it's working. But yeah,
absolutely.
Just exercise the muscle, do the thing, get in there and create.
Awesome. Well, sweet, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thank you, man. This has been awesome.
Sweet. Thanks for joining in today on Pro Audio Profiles. Make sure to hit subscribe, and I'll see you next week.